Hey guys, it's Mrs. Invest. Today's video comes from a great question that one of you guys emailed me. So thanks, Kazu, for the question, which is how to save more money to be able to invest more money. Now, I didn't even take notes for this video. Usually I have like a little, transcript of like the points I want to hit. This just comes so naturally to me. I feel like I was born to make this video. I love saving money. So let's get right into it. And I hope these tips are going to be useful and not generic to actually help you to save more money so you can invest more money. So let's get right into it. Okay, so tip number one, this is a huge one, is develop a savings mindset. Now, I find for some people, this is something that we're born with. In my case, it was, and other people, if you're not born with it, you have to train yourself to develop this savings mindset. And very simply, it is what brings you more joy? Saving money and not spending money, or going out and spending money and buying things. And generally speaking, I feel that people just fall, it's very binary. People fall into one of the two categories. So much more comforting to me to save money and invest money than it is to spend it on stuff. I can't explain why, it's just the way that I am. But if you're not that type of person and it brings you joy to go out and spend money, which realistically I feel like is a greater percentage of the population. So if you're in that category, don't feel bad. I would say that's normal. I'm just weird. At the very least, try and figure out what kind of person you are. And if you are someone with a spending mindset instead of a savings mindset, try to train yourself to feel good saving money instead of feeling like you're missing out on not spending money. I think this is huge. I think it's really hard to become a saver and save consistently if saving money is painful to you. So train yourself to feel good saving money. That's tip number one. Okay, and tip number two, which I would say is of equal importance to having a saving mindset, is to make your contribution to your investment portfolio your number one bill. I've casually slipped this into conversation, with people who I'm close enough to that we actually talk about investing and finances, and people are literally shocked. And they look at me like I'm some sort of alien creature for saying that my number one priority every month is putting a certain amount of money into my investment portfolio and then I live on what's left versus having all my bills and all my cost of living and then only investing what's left over. To me, this is not a revolutionary concept, but it's so funny, people's reactions. When they look at me when I tell them this, and I'm like, really? I'm just trying to prioritize my investments. So it's just hilarious to me. I don't know if you guys have anybody who does this, tell me if people give you that reaction too, because it's always been hilarious to me. People are like, wow, I never thought of that. But basically what it is my income is pretty consistent every month in terms of what I'm bringing in. What I do is I have a certain number in dollars that I know I want to take from, let's say, my checking account where my checks are deposited and pull into my investment account, regardless of what's happening that month. My car breaks down, I'm moving into a house, I want to eat out, I'm going on vacation. All of that stuff is variable. What is constant is my contribution to my investments. And if you look at my banking statements, every single month you see X amount of dollars being transferred into my investment portfolio. So in January, it will be, a big lump sum going into my TFSA. For the first few months of the year, it will be big lump sums going into my RRSP until that's maxed. And then throughout the rest of the year, it will be going into my non-registered account. So I fill up my registered accounts first. And then, TFSA, I usually fill up in 1 to 2 months. And then my RRSP takes me a few months to fill up for the year. And then for the rest of the remaining part of the year, I go into my non-registered. And that's kind of how I do it every single year, especially my TFSA. That's my main priority in January, Christmas gifts, New Year's gifts, don't care about them. Money's going into the TFSA first. And I think one reason that this is so important is, I've said this before on my channel, I say it to my friends in real life, you learn to live on however much money you are making every month. So I promise to God that if you made $50,000 a month and you had $50,000 a month coming in, eventually you would get to a point where $50,000 a month seems normal to live on. I think there was like a video of Cardi B on Ellen, I think talking about something like this, how she lives on like a disgusting amount of money per month. And she was like, yeah, that's how much it costs to live. Like, it's crazy how your sense of what is normal gets warped even at astronomical incomes per month. So my point in saying this is that let's say you make $10,000 a month. If you get used to living on $10,000 a month, eventually it feels like nothing. You're just like, oh, you know, a couple thousand on this, couple thousand on that. You just get used to it. So if you instead took 5,000 of that 10,000 and put it into your investments and got used to living on 5,000 per month, which is 50% of your 10,000, that becomes your norm. You get used to it. Like, we're very adaptable as humans. And so you can adapt yourself to less, and it's also very easy to adapt yourself to more. So that's why personally, I've just forced myself to invest the same amount every month, and it doesn't exist to me. It's not money that I can spend to live on, and I've gotten used to it. It's almost like it's not even my money in terms of spending, and I've just gotten used to that. So that is, I would say, something in my 20s that helped me significantly in building net worth was investing aggressively and having my investments or contribution to my investments be my number one priority every single month. My third tip is to control your spending until you have a pretty good nest egg that's compounding for you in the background. And I think this tip is more than just control spending, because, you know, what's the point of living if we're just constantly saving money and not enjoying our lives? Like, that is not a life worth living. But I think a way to adjust that is to say, control your spending until your nest egg is compounding for you in the background. So what do I mean by that? There's a certain amount of portfolio value where the portfolio is not really doing much itself. It's just kind of sitting there and not really growing a whole lot, because it's too small and it cannot start to snowball on itself, meaning the portfolio is not making you much cash by itself. It's really just kind of sitting there and growing slowly, and your biggest return every year is from you putting money into it. Try to control your spending so that you can prioritize investing in that portfolio, so you can get to that point where the portfolio then can start growing by itself. And I know it's shocking, like, obviously, to save money, control your spending, but another way, you know, another thing people sometimes say is, well, I'm just going to make more money because I don't want to reduce my lifestyle. And the problem with that is it's a lot harder to increase your income. And every dollar that you earn of extra income is going to be taxed, assuming you're in a high tax bracket in Canada, at about 50%. So each dollar worth of effort is only giving you 50% return on your effort of increasing your income, but every dollar that you save is a full dollar that you save. Saving money is twice as efficient as making more money. Okay, so those are some generic tips that I think are super helpful, and I know they've helped me, but I want to now get into things that I actually did, because everybody always wants to know how you actually did something, in terms of how I would say over the last 10 years that I helped myself to save a lot of money. And of course, this just applies to me going through university and now working. So that's kind of my vantage point. I don't have kids, so keep that in mind. But I would say, you know, even starting in high school, I had really high grades. And so I got a really good scholarship going into university of $4,000 per year off my tuition. So, you know, $4,000 and tuition was like $5,500 at the time when I started. That my tuition was about $1,500 a year, which, I mean, that's like what my mom paid for tuition like years and years and years ago. So that's like that was a huge saving right there. And all I had to do was get good grades. When I was in university, I maintained a high average so that I could renew that $4,000 a year scholarship. So over the 4 years, I saved $16,000 just on tuition fees. The next thing that I did was I met some friends in first year, and met one friend in particular who I knew I would be able to live with really well. And after first year, we moved out of residence and we moved into an apartment that was one bus stop away from campus. And what we did is we moved into a 1-bedroom apartment, and we just put up a curtain in the living room, and I used the living room as my bedroom because a 1-bedroom was like $900 a month. So it was like $450 each. But a 2-bedroom was like $1,500 a month. So we were like, we don't have any living room furniture anyway, so why don't I just live in the bedroom? Like, it's literally a box with a window. Like, it's the same thing as a bedroom. And I had like a little dresser for my clothes. So my rent was $450 a month. And this was like in the period of like 2010 on. So, not too long ago, like rent wasn't that cheap back then. But again, the combination of having a huge scholarship for tuition due to keeping my grades up, plus having super low rent by stuffing ourselves into a 1-bedroom helped a lot. Like times 4 years, I saved a lot of money that way. The next thing that I did was, as I said, we lived 1 bus stop away from school, away from the campus. So I didn't have a car, obviously. And as a student, I'm pretty sure it's like this at all universities now, but you're forced to buy the bus pass, which is like a couple $100s a year. Like, you can't even opt out of it. So I just used the bus, and the bus system was really good. I used the bus for groceries. I took the bus to school. It was 1 stop away. And again, not having a car and huge insurance when you're under 25, like that was a huge savings right there. What would I say? So that was pretty much how I saved a lot of money during university. Oh yeah, and then I worked during university. So I was a lifeguard, and I did some tutoring on the side. In university, I took chemistry and mathematics. I know, I'm a big nerd. So I did some tutoring in math and some tutoring in chemistry. And I made, honestly, a good amount of money doing that. Like, if you can explain things well in a difficult subject area, it doesn't have to be academic, even like carpentry. If you can explain things well, you would be shocked at how much people are willing to pay you for that service of just being able to explain well. Like, explaining is such a valuable skill that does not get enough credit. Regardless of the topic, if you can explain well, you will make money. And I enjoyed it, and I was learning, I was learning the topics as I was teaching them, so it was good for me too, because I was still obviously studying those topics. And then I lifeguarded, which was a really good job because you could pick up shifts here and there, and it's a pretty chill, fun job, and that helped to basically cover like my food and everything. So at the end of university, I graduated with pretty low debt, and that helped me a lot to get started because I didn't have that much to pay back when I started working. The second major thing I did was, once I met my now husband, I grew up in Toronto, and we moved away from Southern Ontario to the East Coast now because we just wanted, more peaceful kind of lifestyle. Toronto is a bit too crazy for us. And moving to a low cost of living city has really helped in the last few years with being able to prioritize putting a greater percentage of our money away into investments. Like, the price of real estate in big cities, like, tell me if you guys live in Toronto or Vancouver or like Victoria, like, how are people in their late 20s, early 30s even like saving for homes? Like, I just can't imagine having like a $5,000 a month mortgage payment for a house that looks like a literal shed. For like 25 years, you have to pay that every single month. Like, I just couldn't imagine that. And like, honestly, the East Coast is pretty cool, I have to say. But yeah, we have a nice house here, and it doesn't, we don't have to break our backs every month. Our mortgage payment is under $1,500, and we have a beautiful house near the water. And honestly, I couldn't ask for anything better, but that didn't fall into our lap. Like, we consciously made a decision to move out here. We could have just as easily kind of stayed in Toronto and had this massive mortgage, which we could afford, but it really would have reduced the amount of money that we're able to put, each month into our investments. And if I think about like over the last few years, starting in 2018, when I really started to invest in Tesla stock and some other stocks that have done exceptionally well, like, I think about, like, I could have put that money, it probably would have gone into a mortgage, which real estate has done really well too. But I've definitely made more in my investments in the stock market that probably never would have happened because I just wouldn't have had the money to do it. So, you know, take a look at your living situation, and if things are looking just like completely dire in terms of like you're going to be renting forever because you can't get a place, you know, don't lose hope and don't feel bad, because there are a lot of great cities in Canada that I feel like have just flown under the radar. And I feel like the East Coast is really starting to gain attention for that reason, because people are kind of realizing that, hey, you know, it's a nice place to live, it's by the ocean, and real estate is still super affordable, and you're an hour and a half-ish flight to Pearson, like it's not far at all. So definitely moving to this lower cost of living city was a good decision. And I would encourage anybody, like if you're young in your career and you don't have kids yet, and you are able to move easily, like let's say you're a student. When we moved here, we didn't have any furniture. We literally like threw some stuff in the car and we were like, okay, let's drive to the East Coast. If you're in that position, like now is the time in your life to go on an adventure. Like if you have an opportunity to like, you know, go live in Europe or go live somewhere where you know you can make a lot of money and you can live in like maybe a rooming house, or, you know, live with a few friends, or split like, you know, a cheap rent in a low cost of living city with your partner, like look into that, because it becomes harder and harder to do that as you get older. And just from my experience, like the amount of money that we've made just from being able to save and invest by living here has been huge the last few years. And you know, if you hate it, you can always move back. If you feel like you're in that stage where you're just saving and saving and saving, and you're like, is this ever going to end? It will, and there will come a point where you can spend more than you've ever spent in your life without it reducing your net worth, because money is coming in on the side from your portfolio. So you're spending this money, but this money is coming in passively, so you're ending up net neutral. Whereas if you spent all that money when you were younger, and you didn't have the portfolio, then you are net negative at the end of the month. And that, I think, is the biggest difference in the way that I see it, is am I ending up negative, am I ending up neutral, or am I ending up positive, regardless of where the money is coming and going from. So I'm just kind of at a point now where I can spend more and still end up net positive. And the reason is because I worked really, really hard over the last 10 plus years, but I'm definitely not done yet. I'm still adding to that portfolio, still saving, but just a little bit less strict than I've been for the last decade. So I hope that gave you guys some insight, maybe some tips that you kind of have sparked some curiosity in your minds. Happy New Year. I hope you guys had a great holidays, and I will see you guys in the next video. If you have any video recommendations, I love making videos, topics based on what you guys ask for. So please email me or please comment. My email is in the About section. I'd love to hear really great questions from you guys. Man, if I get a good question, I will stop everything and film a video. So I love great questions. So let me know, because I really make these videos for you, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.